Before we begin, it is important to understand that the albums covered in this video explore some of the darkest, most unsettling corners of the human experience. Themes of death, despair, mental illness, trauma, and existential dread are woven into the music you're about to learn about. Some of these works are emotionally intense, disturbing, and confrontational, pushing the boundaries of what many would consider comfortable listening. This video is not for everyone. If you are sensitive to dark, disturbing content, viewer discretion is strongly advised. The intent here is not to glorify or sensationalize these themes, but to explore how music can reflect the complexities of the human condition, even when it ventures into uncomfortable territory. Proceed with caution as we descend the abyss.
Welcome back to the weird, depressing, and disturbing albums Iceberg. We've already crossed through Tier 5 Part 1, and now we're venturing deeper into Part 2 of this tier, where the boundaries of sound, emotion, and artistry become even more fractured and intense. The albums we're about to explore take us further into darkness, challenging not just our understanding of music, but of how we process the themes and emotions it can evoke. If you're joining this journey for the first time, welcome. You've stepped into a series where each tier peels back another layer of music's most unsettling and thought-provoking works. And if you've been with us from the beginning, you know what's coming. More stories, sounds, and concepts that linger long after the music fades. Before we descend, a quick reminder that you can find the complete Iceberg playlist in the video description to catch up on previous tiers. Let's begin. Our journey into Tier 5 Part 2 begins with Devil Doll's 1989 album, The Girl Who Was, Death, a work that blends gothic theatrics, avant-garde experimentation, and progressive rock into a dark, operatic experience. Led by the enigmatic Mr. Doctor, Devil Doll created an album that feels more like a theatrical performance than a traditional record. It's an auditory spectacle filled with dramatic twists, haunting melodies, and a narrative structure that keeps listeners on edge from start to finish. The title, The Girl Who Was, Death, is a direct nod to an episode of the cult 1960s British television show, The Prisoner. Like its namesake, the album is layered with surrealism, mystery, and a sense of unsettling whimsy. It weaves a tale through its single, nearly hour-long track, drawing on themes of mortality, paranoia, and existential dread. Devil Doll merges storytelling with music in a way that feels immersive and theatrical, creating an experience that's equal parts haunting and mesmerizing. Musically, the album is an intricate blend of styles, combining gothic orchestration with progressive rock complexity. Strings, piano, and organ create a lush, eerie backdrop, while the shifting tempos and unpredictable structures keep the listener in a constant state of anticipation. Mr. Doctor's vocals add another layer of intensity, moving from whispered narrations to operatic crescendos and guttural screams. The result is a soundscape that feels both chaotic and meticulously crafted, as if every element was designed to pull the listener deeper into its gothic narrative. The production on The Girl Who Was Death enhances its theatricality, with dramatic shifts in dynamics and instrumentation that feel like the unfolding of an elaborate stage play. Quiet, reflective passages give way to sudden bursts of intensity, keeping the listener off balance and engaged. The use of unconventional instruments and recording techniques adds to the album's unique character, making it feel like a world unto itself. A dark, surreal place where music and storytelling merge seamlessly. Since its release, The Girl Who Was Death has gained a cult following, celebrated for its originality and audacity. It stands as a testament to Devil Doll's ability to defy categorization, combining gothic aesthetics, progressive structures, and avant-garde experimentation into a singular, unforgettable work. Its influence can be seen in artists who embrace theatricality and narrative in their music, pushing the boundaries of what an album can be. In the end, The Girl Who Was Death isn't just an album. It's a gothic journey, an operatic descent into the dark and surreal. For those willing to immerse themselves in its theatrical depths, it offers a haunting experience that lingers long after the music ends, a reminder of the power of storytelling and sound. Oh, this album. Our next descent into Tier 5 Part 2 takes us into the brutal, unrelenting world of Deathpile's 2003 album, GR. This power electronics masterpiece isn't just an auditory experience, it's an assault. Known for its harsh noise textures and deeply disturbing images, GR pushes the boundaries of what music can confront, diving into the darkest recesses of human behavior. This is not an album for casual listening. It's a harrowing exploration of violence and the depravity of the human condition. The title GR references Gary Ridgway, also known as the Green River Killer, a notorious serial murderer responsible for the deaths of dozens of women in the 1980s and 1990s. The album doesn't glorify or excuse its subject. Rather, it plunges the listener into the mind of a predator, using sound and spoken word elements to convey the horror and repulsion of his actions. Tracks like Shut Up and Open Season are built on layers of distorted noise, guttural vocalizations, and chilling monologues, creating an atmosphere that is both oppressive and deeply unsettling. GR explores themes of violence, power, and the psychological depths of human cruelty. Through its confrontational approach, the album forces listeners to face the uncomfortable realities of these acts, reflecting society's fascination with and revulsion for figures like Ridgway. There's a voyeuristic tension in the music, as if Deathpile is holding up a mirror to the darkest corners of human nature and daring the audience to look. It's an unflinching examination of the monsters among us and the ones within. The production on GR is intentionally harsh and abrasive, capturing the raw, chaotic energy of power electronics. Distorted synths, harsh feedback, and pulsating static form the backbone of the sound, while layered vocals samples add to the album's oppressive atmosphere. The lo-fi recording quality enhances the rawness of the experience, making it feel unfiltered and immediate, as though the music itself is an uncontainable force. The relentless intensity of GR is overwhelming, leaving no space for reprieve or comfort. Since its release, GR has become a defining work in the power electronics genre, celebrated and criticized in equal measure for its unrelenting exploration of such disturbing subject matter. It's a polarizing piece of art that raises questions about the role of music in confronting and reflecting human darkness. For fans of extreme and experimental music, GR stands as a bold statement on the power of sound to provoke and unsettle. In the end, Deathpile's GR isn't just an album. It's a sonic reckoning with the grotesque, a work that refuses to look away from the worst aspects of humanity. For those brave enough to endure its intensity, GR offers an experience that is as disturbing as it is unforgettable, forcing us to confront the horror we often prefer to ignore. Our next descent into Tier 5 Part 2 takes us to the body's 2014 release, I Shall Die Here, an album that confronts mortality, despair, and the terrifying fragility of existence. Known for their fusion of doom metal, noise, and experimental electronic elements, the body delivers a work here that feels both apocalyptic and deeply personal. It's an unrelenting exploration of death and the emotions surrounding it, grief, fear, and the overwhelming weight of inevitability. I Shall Die Here opens with To Carry the Seeds of Death Within Me, a track that sets the tone for the entire album. Ominous drones, distorted electronics, and agonized screams create a soundscape that feels oppressive and suffocating. Each track builds on this foundation, layering in punishingly slow rhythms, abrasive textures, and vocals that sound like desperate cries from the abyss. Songs like Hail to Thee, Everlasting Pain, and Alone All the Way are unrelenting in their intensity, immersing the listener in a world where hope feels distant, if not entirely extinguished. Thematically, I Shall Die Here is a meditation on death, both its physical reality and its emotional impact. The album channels feelings of helplessness and existential dread, reflecting on what it means to confront the end. The body takes these themes and translates them into sound, using distorted frequencies, feedback, and layered noise to mirror the chaos and anguish of the human experience. There's a catharsis in the album's unflinching confrontation with these themes, though it offers no easy answers or resolutions. The production on I Shall Die Here is a collaborative effort with electronic producer The Haxon Cloak, whose influence can be felt throughout the album. The blending of the body's crushing doom metal with the Haxon Cloak's dark atmospheric electronic textures creates a sound that is both massive and suffocating. Every detail, from the crushing weight of the guitars to the eerie ambient elements, feels meticulously crafted to heighten the album's intensity. The result is a sonic landscape that feels vast and all-consuming, as though the music itself is swallowing the listener whole. Since its release, I Shall Die Here has been hailed as one of the body's most compelling works, praised for its ability to push the boundaries of doom metal and noise while remaining deeply emotional. The album has influenced a range of artists in the experimental and heavy music scenes, serving as a reminder of the power of sound to convey the darkest corners of the human psyche. Its impact lies not only in its heaviness, but in its raw emotional resonance, a rare feat in music this extreme. In the end, I Shall Die Here is more than an album. It's a reckoning with mortality, an unflinching dive into the abyss of death and despair. For those willing to confront its darkness, it offers an experience that is both haunting and cathartic, a reminder of the inevitable truths that define our existence. Oh man, this one was just sad. Our next descent into Tier 5 Part 2 takes us to Uboa's 2019 release, The Origin of My Depression, an album that is as devastating as it is deeply personal. Created by Zandra Metcalf, Uboa uses this work to explore themes of mental illness, dysphoria, and despair through an experimental blend of noise, dark ambient, and drone. This isn't an album that seeks to comfort. It's a raw, unfiltered confrontation with the darkest corners of the human psyche, a space where vulnerability and pain are laid bare in their truest form. The Origin of My Depression begins with Detransitioning, a haunting track that immediately plunges listeners into a world of dissonant drones and distorted vocals. The quiet, sparse instrumentation feels suffocating, as if the silence itself carries the weight of the album's themes. As the album progresses, tracks like An Angel of Great and Terrible Light and Please Don't Leave Me layer harsh noise, unsettling whispers, and sudden bursts of overwhelming sound, capturing the unpredictability of emotional turmoil. It's a listening experience that is both beautiful and terrifying, reflecting the complexity of the emotions it seeks to convey. Thematically, the album addresses deeply personal struggles, including feelings of alienation, gender dysphoria, and self-loathing. Metcalf's lyrics and soundscapes create an atmosphere of raw honesty, offering a glimpse into experiences that are rarely spoken about so openly in music. The Origin of My Depression feels like a diary written in sound, a confessional that doesn't shy away from the pain, anger, or hopelessness that defines its narrative. It's not just a reflection of despair, it's a cry from within it, demanding to be heard and understood. The production on the album is intentionally sparse and fragmented, mirroring the chaotic and overwhelming emotions it explores. Moments of quiet ambient textures are shattered by harsh, distorted noise, creating a jarring contrast that keeps the listener on edge. These abrupt shifts reflect the unpredictability of emotional distress, immersing the listener in an experience that feels deeply intimate and unsettling. Every sound feels purposeful, as if it's pulling the listener deeper into the album's emotional landscape. Since its release, The Origin of My Depression has resonated with listeners who find solace in its honesty and relatability, while also challenging those unprepared for its intensity. It's become a defining work in experimental music, praised for its ability to merge deeply personal themes with avant-garde soundscapes. The album's influence extends beyond its genre, serving as a reminder of music's ability to convey the rawest forms of human emotion. In the end, The Origin of My Depression isn't just an album. It's a cathartic release, an expression of pain and vulnerability that refuses to be ignored. For those willing to immerse themselves in its darkness, it offers a powerful and unforgettable journey into the depths of despair, reminding us that even in our most broken moments, there is value being seen and heard. Alright, if I screw this up, I apologize. Our next descent into Tier 5 Part 2 brings us to Abruptum's 1993 release, Obscuritatem, Advoco, Amplectere, Me, a work that abandons traditional musical structures entirely in favor of a chaotic ritualistic exploration of darkness and horror. Often described as one of the most extreme black metal adjacent projects, Abruptum takes the concept of sonic terror to its limits, creating an album that feels more like a seance or an invocation of malevolent forces than a conventional record. The album, whose Latin title translates to I Summon the Darkness to Embrace Me, consists of 2 lengthy tracks, each over 25 minutes long. These sprawling compositions are filled with dissonant screams, guttural growls, distorted guitars, and eerie atmospheric noises. There's no rhythm, melody, or structure to guide the listener, only an unrelenting torrent of sound that feels deliberately chaotic and unpredictable. From the tortured screams to the clanging of metal and ominous drones, Obscuritatem creates a soundscape that is oppressive and deeply unsettling. Thematically, the album explores pure evil and the invocation of darkness. It's less about storytelling and more about creating an atmosphere of dread and spiritual unease. Listening to this album feels like witnessing a ritual performed by unseen forces, a descent into a realm where chaos reigns and malevolence lingers in every shadow. The lack of structure and traditional musicality heightens the feeling that this is not for entertainment. It's a deliberate provocation designed to evoke discomfort and fear. The production on Obscuritatem is raw and lo-fi, amplifying the sense of isolation and detachment from reality. Each element feels distorted and distant, as though it's emanating from a void. The recording captures every unsettling detail, from whispered incantations to crashing noises that sound like the destruction of sanity itself. This unpolished sound serves the album's purpose, making it feel more like a captured ritual than a crafted piece of music. Since its release, Obscuritatem has divided listeners. For some, it represents the pinnacle of dark experimental music, a work that pushes boundaries and captures a sense of genuine horror. For others, its lack of traditional elements make it impenetrable and unnerving. Regardless, its influence on extreme metal is undeniable, inspiring artists in black metal, noise, and experimental genres who seek to evoke similar feelings of dread and unease. In the end, Obscuritatem is more than just an album. It's a confrontation with the concept of evil itself, a sonic embodiment of chaos and despair. For those willing to endure its relentless intensity, it offers a unique and harrowing experience, a descent into a world where darkness is not just a theme, but an ever-present force. Our next descent into Tier 5 Part 2 brings us to Silencer's infamous 2001 release, Death Pierce Me, an album that has become synonymous with the darkest corners of depressive black metal. This haunting, polarizing work delves into themes of mental anguish, self-harm, and suicidal ideation, creating an experience that is as emotionally overwhelming as it is musically unique. Death Pierce Me stands out not only for its sound, but for the aura of mystery and controversy surrounding its creation and the individuals behind it. The album opens with the title track, Death Pierce Me, a sprawling composition that sets the tone with raw, tremolo-picked guitar melodies, haunting atmospheric passages, and anguished shrieks that defy conventional vocals. Natrum, the band's enigmatic vocalist, delivers some of the most tortured and unrestrained performances in the genre, his voice wavering between high-pitched wails and guttural cries of despair. Each track builds on this foundation, with pieces like Sterile Nails and Thunderbells and The Slow Kill in the Cold, immersing the listener in a world of despair and emotional desolation. Lyrically, the album is an unflinching exploration of self-destruction and existential pain. The words paint vivid, often disturbing images of suffering, capturing the raw emotion of a mind in turmoil. Combined with the hauntingly melancholic melodies and relentless black metal instrumentation, Death Pierce Me becomes a deeply personal and visceral experience. It's music that feels less like an artistic expression and more like a cry for help, a harrowing reflection of internal chaos and unresolved pain. The production on Death Pierce Me is raw and cold, enhancing the album's bleak atmosphere. The lo-fi quality of the recording lends an intimacy to the music, making it feel as though the listener is directly witnessing the anguish and vulnerability behind the compositions. This unpolished sound is a hallmark of depressive black metal, and it works here to create an oppressive, suffocating environment that mirrors the themes of the album. Beyond the music, Silencer and Death Pierce Me have been surrounded by controversy and speculation. Most of this centers around Natrum, whose elusive persona and rumored history have fueled countless myths. Stories about his mental health struggles, alleged institutionalization, and bizarre public statements have only added to the album's notoriety, creating a mystique that often overshadows the album itself. Whether these tales are fact or fabrication, they've solidified Silencer's place in the lore of extreme music. Since its release, Death Pierce Me has remained a divisive work, revered by some for its emotional intensity and raw honesty, while others dismiss it as exploitative or overly theatrical. Regardless, it has become a cornerstone of depressive black metal, influencing countless artists in the genre and beyond. Its legacy is one of confrontation, forcing listeners to face the discomfort of its themes and the rawness of its execution. In the end, Death Pierce Me is more than an album. It's a harrowing descent into despair, a reflection of pain that feels both deeply personal and universally resonant. For those who can endure its intensity, it offers a profound and haunting experience, a stark reminder of the fragility of the human mind. I apologize for my pronunciation. Our next descent into Tier 5 Part 2 brings us to Suishou no Fune's 2008 release, Prayer for Chibi, an album steeped in sorrow, introspection, and transcendental beauty. This Japanese duo, known for their atmospheric and improvisational approach to psychedelic rock, crafts a deeply emotional journey that feels like an elegy, a heartfelt farewell imbued with longing and spiritual resonance. The title, Prayer for Chibi, reflects the album's central theme, grief and remembrance. Dedicated to a beloved pet who passed away, the album uses music as a form of mourning, turning raw emotion into ethereal soundscapes. From the opening moments, the listener is drawn into a world of reverberating guitar textures, delicate melodies, and haunting vocals. Each track feels like a moment of reflection, a meditation on loss that's as tender as it is sorrowful. Musically, Prayer for Chibi is a masterclass in blending free-form improvisation with emotional depth. The interplay between Pia's vocals and Curie's intricate guitar work creates an otherworldly atmosphere that feels both intimate and expansive. Tracks like Eternal Prayer and A Meditation on the Infinite move at an unhurried pace, allowing each note and chord to linger, as if the music itself is breathing. There's a sense of timelessness here, a quality that makes the album feel less like a collection of songs and more like a single, cohesive journey through grief and healing. Thematically, the album is as much about transcendence as it is about mourning. While it confronts the pain of loss, it also seeks to find peace and acceptance, using music as a bridge between the physical and spiritual realms. The ethereal quality of the soundscapes mirrors this duality, capturing the tension between sorrow and solace. It's as if the music is reaching out to something beyond, an attempt to connect with what's been lost while finding a sense of closure. The production on Prayer for Chibi is sparse and organic, allowing the raw emotions of the performances to take center stage. The gentle hum of the guitars, the echoing vocals, and the ambient spaces between sounds creates an immersive experience that feels almost meditative. This minimalist approach enhances the album's introspective nature, drawing the listener into its emotional core without distraction. It's an album that asks for quiet reflection, rewarding those who are willing to let it unfold at its own pace. Since its release, Prayer for Chibi has become a cult favorite among fans of experimental and psychedelic music, celebrated for its ability to convey profound emotion through improvisation. It stands as a testament to Suishou no Fune's unique artistry, a reminder of how music can serve as a vessel for grief, love, and memory. Its legacy lies not in its grandeur, but in its vulnerability, a quiet, heartfelt exploration of the human experience. In the end, Prayer for Chibi is more than an album. It's a meditation on loss and the enduring power of connection. For those willing to immerse themselves in its sorrowful beauty, it offers a profound and healing experience, a reminder that even in the face of grief, there's room for reflection and grace. Let's pause for a moment. As we continue deeper into Tier 5 Part 2, the albums become more challenging, more visceral, and undeniably more thought-provoking. Each entry we've explored so far reveals a new layer of discomfort and artistic rebellion, pushing the boundaries of what music can communicate. These aren't just albums, they're confrontations. Confrontations with societal norms, with the human condition, with our own perceptions of what is beautiful, meaningful, or even tolerable. The works in this tier demand more than just listening. They ask us to question, reflect, and engage with the often unsettling truths they expose. So take a deep breath, let the echoes of what you've heard settle, and prepare yourself. The journey through this tier is far from over, and what lies ahead promises to challenge even further. Let's continue. Our next descent into Tier 5 Part 2 takes us to Dragged into Sunlight's 2009 release, Hatred for Mankind, a record that embodies pure misanthropy and despair. This album doesn't just confront darkness, it revels in it. Combining elements of black metal, death metal, and sludge, Hatred for Mankind is an unrelenting onslaught of aggression, chaos, and nihilism that pushes the boundaries of extremity in music. From the opening moments of Boiled Angels / Buried with Leeches, it's clear this isn't an album that's concerned with subtlety. Walls of crushing guitars, pummeling drums, and guttural screams create an oppressive soundscape that feels as violent as it is chaotic. Tracks like Volcanic Birth and Lash to the Grinder and Stone to Death unleash a torrent of noise and fury, with sudden tempo shifts and layered feedback keeping the listener disoriented and overwhelmed. The sheer intensity is suffocating, immersing the listener in a sonic abyss where hope feels non-existent. Hatred for Mankind delves into themes of rage, despair, and the inherent cruelty of existence. The album's misanthropic tone is palpable in every track, reflecting a worldview that sees humanity as a source of corruption and suffering. This isn't music meant to offer solace or catharsis. It's a brutal, unfiltered expression of anger and hopelessness. The violent imagery in the song titles and lyrics only amplifies this sense of nihilism, turning the album into an auditory embodiment of hatred and despair. The production on Hatred for Mankind is raw and abrasive, perfectly suited to the album's unrelenting sound. Recorded by Billy Anderson, known for his work with bands like I Hate God and Neurosis, the mix captures the full weight of the music without sacrificing its chaotic edge. The layers of distortion, feedback, and guttural growls are balanced with an intensity that feels overwhelming but deliberate. This careful balance ensures that the chaos feels controlled, heightening its impact without dulling its brutality. Since its release, Hatred for Mankind has become a landmark in extreme metal, celebrated for its ability to channel pure aggression into a cohesive and devastating experience. Its influence can be seen in bands that push the boundaries of heaviness and intensity, and it remains a touchstone for those seeking the rawest expressions of misanthropy in music. Dragged into Sun created something with Hatred for Mankind that transcends genre, becoming a visceral exploration of the darkest aspects of human existence. In the end, Hatred for Mankind isn't just an album. It's a descent into the depths of rage and despair, a work that forces listeners to confront the ugliest parts of themselves and the world around them. For those willing to endure its unrelenting ferocity, it offers a haunting and unforgettable journey into the heart of darkness, where humanity's flaws are laid bare and nothing is spared. Our next descent into Tier 5 Part 2 brings us to Psychonaut 4's 2015 album, Dipsomania, a raw and deeply introspective exploration of addiction, self-destruction, and despair. Known as one of the defining bands in depressive black metal, Psychonaut 4 delivers a work here that feels as much like a confession as it does an album, a window into the struggles of substance abuse and the cynical nature of self-inflicted harm. The term dipsomania refers to an uncontrollable craving for alcohol, a theme that permeates every track on this album. From the opening moments of Tablesian tragedy, the listener is drawn into a world of melancholic guitar riffs, tortured screams, and atmospheric passages that evoke both beauty and despair. Tracks like Hangover and Personal Forest delve even deeper into the emotional turmoil, layering melodic black metal with moments of haunting vulnerability. The music captures the duality of addiction, the brief euphoria followed by the crushing weight of regret and emptiness. Lyrically, Dipsomania is brutally honest, addressing themes of alcoholism, self-loathing, and existential despair with unflinching detail. The lyrics often read like diary entries, filled with raw emotion and a sense of vulnerability that's rare in such an extreme genre. There's no glamorization here, only a stark portrayal of addiction's destructive impact on the mind and soul. These deeply personal reflections are delivered through Graff's anguished vocals, which alternate between guttural screams and spoken word passages, adding to the album's confessional tone. The production on Dipsomania is polished, yet retains the raw edge necessary to convey the emotional weight of the music. The mix highlights the melodic elements of the guitar work, allowing them to weave through the heavier, more abrasive aspects of the sound. Atmospheric layers of keyboards and subtle effects add depth, creating an immersive experience that feels both intimate and overwhelming. The balance between melody and chaos mirrors the album's themes, reflecting the constant push and pull between moments of clarity and the depths of despair. Since its release, Dipsomania has resonated deeply with fans of depressive black metal, earning acclaims for its ability to merge brutal honesty with musical sophistication. The album's influence can be seen in the continued growth of the genre, inspiring artists who seek to explore deeply personal and emotionally intense themes. For many, Dipsomania stands as a testament to the power of music to express pain and offer a sense of connection, no matter how dark the subject is. In the end, Dipsomania is more than an album. It's a journey through the emotional and psychological toll of addiction, a reflection of the fragility of the human spirit. For those willing to confront its stark truths, it offers a powerful and cathartic experience, a reminder that even in the depths of despair, there is beauty in raw honesty and vulnerability. Our next ascent in Tier 5 Part 2 takes us to Flux of Pink Indians' incendiary 1984 release, The Fucking Cunts Treat Us Like Pricks. From its provocative title alone, it's clear that this album is never meant to be subtle or polite. Known for their anarcho-punk roots, Flux of Pink Indians took a dramatic turn with this record, diving into experimental noise and industrial sounds to create a work that is as abrasive and confrontational as its themes. The album is a furious reaction to societal oppression, censorship, and the hypocrisy of authority figures. Tracks like For the Love of Beauty and Blinded by Science lash out at power structures with layers of dissonance, chaotic feedback, and shouted, often unintelligible vocals. Traditional punk energy is still present, but it's buried beneath a wall of noise, giving the album a sense of frustration and chaos that mirrors its themes. This isn't music designed to entertain, it's music meant to provoke and unsettle. Lyrically, the album retains its punk ethos, addressing topics like societal control, environmental destruction, and the dehumanizing effects of capitalism. The lyrics are often buried in the mix, forcing the listener to wade through the sonic chaos to uncover their message. This deliberate obscurity mirrors the album's anarchic spirit, its refusal to conform to expectations or offer easy answers. The rage in these lyrics is palpable, turning the album into both a critique of the world and a call to resist its injustices. The production on this album is raw and confrontational, emphasizing noise and distortion over clarity. Every sound is jagged and abrasive, from the piercing guitars to the thunderous percussion and layers of feedback. This rough production style enhances the album's chaotic energy, making it feel less like a polished work of art and more like a spontaneous eruption of anger and rebellion. It's an oral assault that demands attention and forces the listener to confront its intensity head-on. Upon release, the album faced backlash for its provocative title and abrasive sound, with many critics and listeners dismissing it as unlistenable. However, it has also gained a cult following amongst fans of experimental punk and industrial music, who saw its boldness and refusal to compromise as a powerful statement. Over time, it has been reevaluated as a landmark in anarcho-punk and noise music, a record that pushed boundaries and challenged what punk could be. In the end, The Fucking Cunts Treat Us Like Pricks is more than an album. It's an act of defiance, a sonic manifesto that rails against conformity and oppression. For those willing to embrace its chaos, it offers an uncompromising and unforgettable experience, a reminder that music can be a weapon, and rebellion an art form. Our next descent into Tier 5 Part 2 takes us to Cabaret Voltaire's 1981 release, Red Mecca, an industrial masterpiece steeped in political tension and societal critique. As pioneers of industrial and experimental electronic music, Cabaret Voltaire crafted an album that feels both rooted in its time and eerily prescient, a reflection of global instability, authoritarian control, and the creeping influence of technology. Red Mecca opens with A Touch of Evil, a track that immediately sets the tone with its ominous synth lines, pulsating rhythms, and cryptic vocals. The album's sonic palette is a mix of mechanical beats, distorted electronics, and atmospheric noise, creating a soundscape that feels cold and oppressive. Tracks like Slide Out and Landslide capture the unease of living in a politically volatile world, with rhythms that feel relentless and lyrics that evoke paranoia and dissonant. The album seems to mirror the chaos and uncertainty of its era, turning societal anxiety into sound. Thematically, Red Mecca delves into issues of power, surveillance, and societal control. Released during the height of the Cold War and the political unrest of Thatcher's Britain, the album reflects a world on the brink of collapse, where individual freedoms are eroded under the weight of authoritarian systems. The title itself is a provocative statement, blending religious and political imagery to challenge the listener's perception of power structures. It's an album that doesn't just critique the status quo, it demands the listener question their place within it. The production on Red Mecca is raw and experimental, blending the mechanical precision of drum machines with the unpredictable chaos of found sounds and distorted vocals. The use of tape loops and analog synthesizers give the album a gritty, tactile quality, making it feel like a product of the analog age, while simultaneously pointing towards the future of electronic music. Every sound feels deliberate, contributing to an atmosphere of tension and unease that's impossible to escape. Since its release, Red Mecca has become a cornerstone of industrial and experimental music, influencing countless artists across genres who are drawn to its energy and political edge. Its blend of post-punk ethos and avant-garde experimentation set the stage for the evolution of electronic and industrial music, proving that sound can be both innovative and socially conscious. Cabaret Voltaire's ability to capture the spirit of their time while pushing musical boundaries has solidified the album as one of their most iconic works. In the end, Red Mecca is more than an album. It's a statement, a warning, and a reflection of the world's darker realities. For those willing to delve into its cold mechanical depths, it offers a powerful and thought-provoking experience, a reminder of the enduring relationship between music, politics, and the human condition. Our next ascent into Tier 5 Part 2 leads us to the esoteric and experimental world of Psychic TV's 1985 album, Themes 2. Known for their ability to blur the lines between music, art, and the occult, Psychic TV delivers a record here that is less an album and more an experience, a ritualistic invocation captured in sound. Themes 2 challenges the listener to rethink what music can be, offering an immersive, meditative journey into the abstract and the unknown. The album is part of a larger series of works where Psychic TV, led by the enigmatic Genesis P-Org, explores the idea of music as a ceremonial tool. Themes 2 takes this concept into darker and more experimental territory, layering ambient drones, chanting, and unconventional instrumentation to create a soundscape that feels both sacred and unsettling. From the opening track, the listener is drawn into a sonic ritual, one that feels ancient and otherworldly, yet distinctly modern in its execution. Thematically, Themes 2 is steeped in occult and spiritual imagery, reflecting Psychic TV's fascination with the mystical and the esoteric. The album's structure mirrors the progression of a ritual, with each piece building on the last to create a sense of transcendence, or descent, depending on your perspective. These themes are not explicit in the lyrics or titles, but are conveyed through the music's hypnotic repetition and immersive atmosphere. The result is an experience that feels deeply introspective, as though the listener is participating in a ritual of self-discovery or catharsis. The production on Themes 2 is minimalist, but deliberate, with an emphasis on creating an immersive and meditative environment. Subtle shifts in tone, texture, and rhythm guide the listener through the album's sonic landscape, while the use of field recordings and experimental techniques adds to an organic, almost tactile quality to the sound. Each track feels like a step deeper into a ritual, pulling the listener further into its enigmatic world. Since its release, Themes 2 has become a significant work in experimental and ambient music, praised for its ability to use sound as a vehicle for spiritual and emotional exploration. Psychic TV's willingness to push boundaries and embrace the abstract has solidified their legacy as pioneers in the avant-garde music scene. The album's influence can be seen in artists who view music as more than entertainment, those who see it as a means of expression, transformation, and connection. In the end, Themes 2 is more than an album. It's an auditory ritual, an invitation to explore the mysterious and the mystical through sound. For those willing to surrender to its meditative intensity, it offers a profound and unique experience, a journey into the uncharted realms of music, spirituality, and the human psyche. Our next descent into Tier 5 Part 2 takes us to Skin Chamber's 1991 release, Wound, a punishing blend of industrial noise, doom, and sludge that stands as one of the most abrasive albums of its time. Emerging from the creative minds of Controlled Bleeding's Paul Lemos and Chris Moriarty, Skin Chamber represents a shift towards a heavier, darker sound that delves into themes of pain, trauma, and psychological disintegration. This album is not for the faint-hearted. It's a visceral exploration of the human condition at its breaking point. Wound begins with Slice of God, an unsettling introduction that immediately immerses the listener in a world of crushing guitars, mechanical percussion, and guttural screams. Each track builds on this foundation, layering distorted riffs, grinding noise, and tortured vocals to create an atmosphere of pure oppression. Tracks like Burning Power and Through My Window drag the listener through relentless waves of heaviness, blending the cold mechanical percussion of industrial music with the raw aggression of doom and sludge metal. Thematically, Wound explores the darker aspects of existence, focusing on physical and emotional pain, the fragility of the human mind, and the violence we inflict on ourselves and others. The album's lyrics are cryptic and fragmented, adding to its sense of unease and ambiguity. It's not just the words that communicate these themes, but the music itself. Every distorted guitar riff, every pounding drum, and anguished scream reflects the chaos and turmoil that lies at the album's core. The production on Wound is raw and unrelenting, with layers of noise and distortion enveloping each track. The mix creates a suffocating environment where even moments of relative quiet are charged with tension and dread. The industrial elements, machine-like rhythms, grinding feedback, and harsh electronics, are balanced with the visceral heaviness of the guitars, creating a sound that feels mechanical, yet deeply human in its expression of suffering. Since its release, Wound has gained a cult following amongst fans of industrial and extreme metal, praised for its uncompromising approach to sound and emotion. While not as well known as some of their contemporaries, Skin Chamber has influenced a generation of artists who seek to push the boundaries of heaviness and intensity, proving that music can be as harrowing as it is cathartic. In the end, Wound isn't just an album, it's an assault on the senses, a brutal reflection of life's most painful moments. For those willing to endure its crushing intensity, it offers a raw and unforgettable journey into the depths of human anguish, where the line between sound and suffering dissolves completely. Our final descent in Tier 5 leads us to Virgin Prunes' ambitious and enigmatic project, A New Form of Beauty Parts 1 through 4. Released across multiple installments from 1981 to 1983, this series of work is a bold experiment that defies genre, blending post-punk, avant-garde, and performance art into an unsettling and thought-provoking experience. With its theatrical flair, dissonant soundscapes, and cryptic themes, A New Form of Beauty is less an album and more an artistic manifesto. The project begins with Part 1, an introduction to the Virgin Prunes' unorthodox approach, featuring distorted guitars, haunting vocals, and a pervasive sense of unease. Tracks like Sandpaper Lullaby and Come to Daddy push the boundaries of conventional songwriting, incorporating disjointed rhythms, eerie melodies, and moments of unsettling silence. As the series progresses through parts 2, 3, and 4, the music becomes increasingly fragmented and experimental, incorporating spoken word, industrial noise, and ritualistic chants. Each installment feels like a chapter in a surreal narrative, drawing the listener deeper into the band's chaotic and otherworldly vision. Thematically, A New Form of Beauty explores concepts of identity, transformation, and the human condition. The Virgin Prunes challenge traditional notions of beauty and ugliness, using their music and visuals to question societal norms and expectations. Their theatrical performances and abstract lyrics add layers of complexity, making the series feel like a conversation between art, music, and philosophy. There's a deliberate ambiguity in their work, allowing listeners to interpret the themes in deeply personal ways. The production across the series is raw and experimental, emphasizing texture and atmosphere over polish. The sound ranges from sparse and haunting to dense and overwhelming, with each part offering a distinct sonic palette. The use of unconventional instruments and recording techniques gives the series a tactile, almost physical quality, immersing the listener in a world that feels both alien and intimate. The Virgin Prunes' willingness to embrace imperfection and dissonance adds to the project's authenticity and emotional impact. Since its release, A New Form of Beauty has been celebrated as a landmark in avant-garde and post-punk music, influencing countless artists who seek to push the boundaries of their craft. The Virgin Prunes' fearless experimentation and theatricality have cemented their legacy as innovators, proving that music can be as much about challenging perceptions as it is about sound. Their work stands as a testament to the power of art to provoke, inspire, and transform. In the end, A New Form of Beauty Parts 1 through 4 is more than a collection of music. It's an exploration of the unknown, a journey into the fringes of art and sound. For those willing to embrace its strangeness, it offers a haunting and unforgettable experience, a reminder that beauty is often found in the most unexpected places. And that concludes our journey through Tier 5 of the weird, depressing, and disturbing albums Iceberg. This tier has taken us to places where boundaries blur, where sound becomes confrontation, and where the darkest aspects of the human experience are laid bare. Each album we've explored has pushed the limits of music's ability to provoke, unsettle, and reveal uncomfortable truths. As we descend further into the iceberg, the works ahead grow even more enigmatic, more extreme, and more unsettling. What's waiting in the depths defies easy explanation. It's a plunge into the truly unknown, where music becomes something entirely other. If you've been following from the beginning, I must thank you for your curiosity and courage to explore these haunting works with me. And if you're new here, you can find the full playlist of the iceberg linked in the video description, so don't miss any part of this descent. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay updated as we venture even further into the abyss Until next time, stay squishy.